Last time on Data Live, the group had finally reached the hot springs after a long journey. However, upon arrival, they were met with a partially frozen body of water due to Yoshino's powers. Luckily, Kyohei had managed to dig up a hot spring for the group to enjoy. They all took a much-needed break and relaxed in the hot water. Little did they know, Mana Takamiya had just arrived in Japan and was on her way to shake things up. Mana is in the midst of a high-stakes 10 versus 1 practice match against Origami's unit, all while keeping in mind the looming threat of revealing her identity as Shido's biological sister. In a stunning turn of events, Kurumi Tokisaki, a spirit, transfers into Shido's class. While touring the school with Shido, they are followed by Origami and Toka, adding an element of tension to an already complex situation. As Shido attempts to seduce Kurumi, she is also making her own moves to get closer to him, revealing her codename Nightmare and cementing her reputation as the most deadly spirit of all. But the drama doesn't end there. After school, Kurumi takes matters into her own hands and kills 3 delinquents, leading to a confrontation with Mana. Later on, Mana runs into Shido, and the conversation takes a surprising turn when she reveals more about herself, leading to a quarrel with Kotori that only deepens the mystery surrounding her past. As if that weren't enough, the next day at school, Shido learns that Kurumi was killed during her confrontation with Mana, yet she somehow appears in class as if nothing happened. Origami seizes the opportunity to question Kurumi in a secluded place, and the truth is finally revealed. Kurumi is pursuing Shido for his extended lifespan. Shido's night out turns into a whirlwind of unexpected events. Despite inviting Kurumi, he finds himself on a polygamous date thanks to Toka's seduction and Origami's insistence. The pressure mounts as Shido realizes he can't deny any of the girl's requests. Toka would be heartbroken, and Origami would become suspicious, putting Shido's plans to seal the deal with Kurumi at risk. The girls' dates all happen around the same time, with their entertainment venues located close to each other. Thankfully, Ratatosuka comes to Shido's rescue by teleporting him to each location, while keeping a close eye on their emotional levels. While Shido is off with the other girls, Kurumi finds herself in a situation with some boys who are harassing a stray cat. She manages to persuade them to let her join in their game, and Ratatosuka loses sight of her. Meanwhile, Origami and Toka bump into each other and both realize they're trying to find Shido. Origami quickly runs off, worried that Shido might be with someone else. As Shido finishes his final date with Kurumi, he heads back to look for her, but instead he discovers a grisly scene of blood and body parts. To his horror, he sees Kurumi standing there, having killed one of her tormentors. She holds him within her clutches, but just as things are getting out of hand, Mana intervenes wearing her CR unit. Before we continue, take a moment to answer the question of the day. What anime do you think has the most memorable quotes? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out. Now back to the recap. Mana has just killed Kurumi and is now explaining everything to Shido. However, after being forced away, Shido is avoiding Origami and Toka. He runs into them, but the sight of Kurumi's death makes him reluctant to face them. Fortunately, Toka discovers the reason for Shido's behavior and tries to cheer him up by continuing their date. As Shido gains insight into Kurumi, he declares the next day that he will save her. But Kurumi tries to dissuade him by encasing the school in her field while threatening the school and the town. Meanwhile, Origami and Toka engage in battles with other copies of Kurumi. As Shido tries to convince Kurumi, she is killed by another version of herself, using Zafkiel to twist time. Toka and Origami arrive, and it is revealed that the hands in Kurumi's shadow belong to her past selves. Kurumi takes everyone hostage and attempts to blow a spatial quake, but Kotori appears as the Ifrit flame spirit to cancel it. Kotori fights Kurumi. After a brief exchange of words, Kurumi deftly employs one of her skills to immobilize Kotori, while creating multiple copies of herself and firing several shots at her. Despite being hit multiple times, Kotori's remarkable healing ability saves her from certain death. Kurumi, visibly shaken by this unexpected turn of events, quickly sends her copies to attack Shido, but Kotori valiantly intervenes, sacrificing herself to protect him and destroy Kurumi's clones. As the battle rages on, Kurumi attempts to subdue Kotori, but her efforts are only temporary. With a swift flick of her wrist, Kotori draws her weapon and fires at Kurumi, who in a panic, calls forth more copies to shield herself. Shido, desperate to prevent any further bloodshed, implores Kotori to spare Kurumi, but his pleas fall on deaf ears. It is then that he realizes Kotori is no longer the person he once knew. In a selfless act of courage, Shido steps forward to shield Kurumi, but Kotori's shot is miraculously deflected at the last moment. As he awakens from a dream of events that occurred 5 years prior, Shido finds himself aboard the Fraxinus, where he is comforted by Reina before setting out to check on Kotori's condition. Heartbroken and unable to see Mana, Shido instead encounters Origami at the hospital, who tries to win his affection. As he prepares to leave her room that evening, Origami reveals her plan to seek vengeance for her parents' death by killing the flame spirit, which led her to join the AST. Before we continue, big shout out to Jimmy Owalabi, who commented, "I think the best manipulator is Anakoji." This was when answering the question of the day on our jobless reincarnation video. Yes, he is in my top 10 as well. Thanks for your comment. Now back to the video. As Shido ponders the complex situation involving Kotori and the 5-year event, he considers the statements made by both Kotori and Origami regarding the residential fire. With Ratatoska's headquarters personnel unanimously agreeing that Ocean Park is the perfect location for Shido's date, he undergoes training outlined by Reina, which involves Shido, Toka, and Yoshino buying swimsuits. As Toka asks about the swimsuit she should choose, Origami playfully teases her by insinuating that it's a new piece of anti-spirit equipment. However, Origami takes her questioning to the next level by inquiring about Ifrit, and even goes as far as to use excessively polite language. When she realizes that Toka's information is of no use, Origami pressures Shido into viewing her own selection of swimsuits. Toka and Origami then turn it into a competition, vying for Shido's attention in hopes of winning the coveted date. Yoshino ultimately emerges as the winner, but later on the Fraxinus, Shido watches a video of the fire from 5 years ago. As he recognizes a spirit, phantom, in the footage, a series of flashbacks ensue, leading to Shido passing out. The next day, Toka and Yoshino accompany Shido to help Kotori, who has been struggling with her mental state. They are eventually able to succeed in easing her distress, and Shido's determination to help his sister is reignited. He decides to take Kotori away alone, away from the prying eyes of Ratatoska and the AST. Meanwhile, at the AST base, Origami is given a first-hand view of the DW-029 Annihilator gear, codenamed White Licorice, which has been sent there by DM Industries for the use of mana. In a conversation with Ryoko, she learns that there is footage of the epic battle between Kotori and Kurumi. In the last scene, Origami is staring at a frame from the footage showing Kotori as she realizes who Ifrit is. A frightened Kotori clings to Shido's arm tightly as they ride various roller coasters and attractions at the amusement park on their date. Despite the lack of communication, Ratatoska keeps a close eye on the situation, with Kyohei making masochistic comments about missed opportunities. As they separate briefly, Yoshino confides in Toka about Kotori's secret as a spirit and Shido's efforts to seal her powers. Suddenly, Origami appears and steals the white licorice before attacking Kotori while she's talking to Shido. In response, Kotori transforms into her spirit form and fights back, but Origami goes into a full rampage and launches a full-scale offensive. Just as Kotori is about to strike a finishing blow, Origami drops a bombshell, accusing Kotori of murdering her parents. The accusation leaves Kotori stunned, which gives Origami the chance to trap her. Shido intervenes to delay Origami's attack, but it seems like a lost cause until Toka and Yoshino arrive on the scene. Toka bravely tries to stop Origami, but her ordnance is exploding closer and closer to Shido and Kotori. Suddenly, the two share a kiss, effectively sealing Ifrit and stopping Origami in her tracks. In that moment, Shido and Kotori remember everything that happened 5 years ago. Shido pleads with Origami as she reaches the operational limit of white licorice and collapses from exhaustion. Meanwhile, Kurumi watches from a nearby rooftop, her eyes fixed on the unfolding drama. After the dust settles, Reina reveals that the real date wasn't necessary because Kotori's affection for Shido had never wavered. Kotori is embarrassed when Shido confesses his love for her, but he adds that he'll accept any punishment as her brother. During the credits, we see that white licorice has been returned to the AST, while Origami is recovering in the hospital under guard. As Shido and Toka prepare to kiss, Ratatoska interrupts, and Yoshinon and Yoshino simply say, "To be continued, sometime. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to drop a comment for a chance to be shouted out. Go check out our channel for other awesome anime recaps just like this one.